Why did you start your company?
I was sitting there thinking, well, there's got to be more people who are suffering in this regard like me. So I would write what happened to me. And very quickly after I started the blog, it was like people were reaching out, going, same here. I feel the same way. Reading what you wrote made me feel so much better. So then I was like, well, okay, there's something here, and it's not really about me. It's about building a community that we can all share our experiences and learn from each other and feel validated and heard and connected and supported. And so that's really how it started. It started as a blog, it turned into a business.
Welcome to the Turbo Branding Show, where we help you ignite your growth by leveraging your brand to grow faster, easier, and more successfully. You'll discover insightful conversations from our powerful guests, founders and CEOs of thriving businesses who are sharing how they have successfully built strong brands to help you expand and grow. I'm your host, Sue Kirshner, and today we're welcoming Jackie Pilossoph to the show. And let's delve into the episode and turbocharge your brand. First of all, thank you so much for being here, Jackie. I appreciate it.
Sue, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's great. I love all your photos in the background. It looks awesome. Yeah.
Thanks.
Jackie Pilossoph is the founder of Divorce Girls Smiling, the company that connects people facing divorce with trusted, vetted divorce professionals. And Divorce Girls Smiling is also a podcast, website, mobile app, and well-known brand and community. The organization has a mission to empower, connect, and inspire men and women before, during, and after a divorce. Jackie, who holds a master's degree in broadcast journalism, is a former television news reporter and features reporter for the Chicago Tribune. Her syndicated weekly column, Love Essentially, was published in the Pioneer Press, the Chicago Tribune, and all Tribune publishing editions, as well as Better magazines. And she was also a Huffington Post divorce blogger. Excellent. What accolades, how impressive. So, well, I can't wait for you to share your branding insights with us today. So I'm excited to talk about the evolution of your business and the role the brand has played in building your community and even securing funding to scale faster. So my first question for you, Jackie, is why did you start your company?
Well, as you were reading all of the places I wrote for, I was thinking, I'm a writer. That's what I do. And when I got divorced, that was the only thing that made me feel better. And so I would just write. I would write, journal my feelings. I wrote 4 novels like in 4 years. And I just couldn't stop because it was the only thing that felt validating. It soothed me, it calmed me down. And so I just love writing. And I also like to broadcast. I mean, I was a news reporter. And so, I just basically decided to start a blog about divorce. I mean, I was sitting there thinking, well, there's got to be more people who are suffering in this regard like me. So I would write what happened to me. And very quickly after I started the blog, it was like people were reaching out, going, same here. I feel the same way. Reading what you wrote made me feel so much better. So then I was like, well, okay, there's something here, and it's not really about me. It's about building a community that we can all share our experiences and learn from each other and feel validated and heard and connected and supported. And so that's really how it started. It started as a blog, it turned into a business.
Excellent, excellent. So how did you pick your name? That's intriguing to me.
So I think we were talking before the podcast. I got lucky. I didn't know Sue. Otherwise, I probably would have been working with you on branding and naming and all that.
Yeah.
But I basically thought to myself, I wanted people to have hope that their life was going to turn around and that they would end up smiling. So I just thought divorced girl smiling because life can turn out really well. And so that's what I wanted people to feel when they heard the name.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Because like, as you mentioned, we were talking beforehand, I said, man, the best brands are the ones that can tap into how they want to make you feel after they interact with you. And so I just loved it was the divorced girl smiling. Like you said, it gives you hope and my life is different now, right? So I like that. So, um, You talked about how your business model evolves, but did that happen quickly? Or maybe talk a little bit more about your business model, because I know you have almost two or more audiences. You have the people who participate or go to your site to get information, inspiration, community, all that kind of stuff. But then you also have advertisers, right? So how does that model work?
Okay, Sue, I want to back up before I answer that question and
Uh-huh.
tell your listeners something really important about branding.
Yeah.
So, I think one of the reasons Divorced Girl Smiling was such a good name, and I am going to admit that I got lucky. I knew nothing about branding 11 years ago.
Yeah.
But one thing that is so important is to have the name in the brand, like divorce or divorced has to be in the name. And so if you're starting a business and you want something really cutesy or witty, you can have that, but you have to have it where people have an idea of what it is. And there's one word that has to be in it. I mean, Sue, you're the expert, but don't you think
Oh,
like,
yeah.
because then you're going to come up in Google searches for divorce and all this. If I would have just called it like, woman smiling, then no one would have known it was about divorce.
Right. Exactly. No,
Right.
absolutely. I agree with you, because it's one of those things where, especially with small businesses and startups and things, you only have so much time, energy, and resource to put into building your brand. And if you create a name that doesn't mean anything necessarily, like let's throw out the example of Apple or something like that, you need a huge amount of money to then explain what that brand means, what it means,
Yes.
and you spend all of your time educating people on your name that you could have been educating people on the value that you offer. Or just generally, like you said, in today's digital marketing world where everyone is going online to get information about businesses, even before they ever call a salesperson and things like that, to have divorced or to have something that you do in the name helps tremendously with getting found. And as any startup or small business knows, you want to come out of that gate quickly. You don't want to waste a lot of time, energy, and money explaining what you do. You want them to find you right away for
Or having to
exactly what you do.
rename later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Absolutely. You can absolutely rename later. So yeah, tell me a little bit about how, your business model evolved and how you handle having two target markets, basically.
Right. Having two target markets is a big deal. It's hard.
Yeah.
But Divorce Girl Smiling evolved from a blog. So at one point in my life, I was writing the blog, working for the Chicago Tribune, writing the column, and I had a full-time sales job in a different industry. So it was a very busy 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
Because Divorce Girl Smiling was not what it is today, so I needed the other income.
Hmm.
So when podcasts started to become very popular, I should have started the podcast much earlier, but I started a podcast because I could see the trend was going. People aren't reading articles as much anymore. They don't have the attention span. Now I'm seeing videos, I'm seeing podcasts, I'm seeing mobile apps. So I said, okay, I have to do all that.
Hmm.
So I basically just decided to become a multimedia company instead of just a blog. The other thing that started happening was the audience got really big, the community of people, divorced people going on there. And I was thinking to myself, well, I can't help them. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a coach. I'm not a divorce attorney. I'm not a mediator. I don't have anything except a journalism degree.
Yeah.
So I need partners that I can recommend to them. And so I started to think like, what is really the business model? And as it turned out, I was like, I want to be the Angie's List of divorce. And knowing what you want is, I would say, 90% of being successful. Because I was throwing a bunch of stuff up against the wall and seeing what was a moneymaker. I had like wine glasses with like little divorce girl smiling sayings. Should have thrown the money in the garbage can.
Yeah.
I had t-shirts at one point. Like I was trying to figure out for many years, how do I monetize this? What is the business model? And if you don't know it, that's a big problem.
Hmm.
So I finally figured out that I could make money by bringing these amazing resources to people who really need good resources. So I'm helping the community, I'm helping the advertisers, partners get business, and I'm helping myself. I mean, so it really is a win-win for everybody. And I just want to tell your listeners, because this is very important, all the Divorce Girl Smiling trusted professionals are vetted extremely well. I'm really ethical when it comes to making sure that there are good people on the site. I don't just take people's money.
Mhm.
I make sure that they're a good fit for the site. And if I don't feel comfortable, like I wouldn't do business with them myself, then they're not going to become a client of mine. So, and then the last thing I wanted to answer was the two markets that I'm trying to reach,
Yeah.
because it's almost like I have to keep shifting hats. So I'm trying to reach all divorce professionals to get more growth to the business and add to the trusted professionals. And then I'm trying to reach the person getting divorced who needs my help.
Yes.
And basically, you just have to. LinkedIn is very big for reaching professionals. And what's so funny about that is I'm like, well, half of them are getting divorced too. So I can just post any content I want and people appreciate it. And the professionals are seeing me also.
Hmm.
And then I just write articles. I record 2 podcasts a week. I have 2 newsletters a week, tons of social media.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it works well.
Yeah. Now, do you have a team to help you, or I know you love to write. Do you handle all of that yourself then?
You're not going to believe it, but I do everything except I have a website designer who does a lot of stuff for me, but I post my own articles. I know how to do SEO and everything.
Okay.
And then I have a podcast editor, and that's it. I basically do everything myself, and it's because I'm a control freak. It's definitely a weakness. I have to start sourcing this stuff out to people,
Yeah.
but it's hard for me because I like it done the way I want it done.
Right. That it's very hard as you start to scale, obviously to hand off some of these key and important aspects of your business. But I think, and that's also where the brand can play a big role, is by anytime you bring someone on board to help you, is to make clear that, hey, this is what we're trying to deliver. This is the promise we're making to anyone who is coming and interacting with us. So I need to make sure that you understand what that brand and that promise is so that you can then take over some of these, outsourced responsibilities that you no longer have time to do.
Sue, you're so right because I'm not saying the person I hire, everyone I hire has to be divorced. That's not true.
Yes.
Half of the Divorce Girl Smiling professionals are happily married. That's not it. What I'm saying though is that if I was going to, for example, have somebody do my social media, they have to have the passion to want to help divorce people, or it's not going to come across the same way.
Right. Right. Well, and again, it's the brand is helping you to communicate to any employees or any trusted advisors you're going to bring in to help you execute on all that. But they also have to understand, yeah, like you said, this is what we're delivering. This is absolutely important to you to make sure that you're delivering a consistent experience and showcasing the passion that you have to help people when they're in a very low point in their life to move forward and to have hope. So, and I would think as well as like you were talking earlier about vetting all of the professionals, that showcases itself in your brand as well, because they know that they're advertising in a site that has high integrity, but they also know that they're also surrounded by people that have high integrity. So it elevates their brand as well to be listed on that particular type of site.
And they are also recommending each other. So there's a networking component with the professionals. So they're meeting and recommending each other, and it's working out beautifully because the people need resources to give to their clients. And so I'm really hoping that the DGS network becomes like the place to find really good professionals who are going to give you a really good divorce outcome.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Now, do you have any competitors? Like, if you do, how do you differentiate your content or content brand and deliverable versus anything else that's out there?
So I do not have direct competitors, but there's a lot of people in the divorce space, and we're all asking people for money. So in that sense, they are competitors, but they don't do what I do. Like
Okay.
one company, they get hubs of people in different cities, and then the people, it's up to them to plan these webinars. So that's a good service. I don't do that.
Okay.
That's all they do, I think. Okay, then there's another company. She's a good friend of mine, Liz Becker of the NADP, the National Association of Divorce Professionals. See, I love her so much. I'll mention her name.
Yes.
But she offers like a certification, but she also offers some networking. So, like I said, we're all asking people for money. We're all it's coming out of the marketing budget for a divorce professional. So, in that sense, we're competitors, but I don't have any direct competition.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. All right, perfect. So I'm going to talk a little bit about on your website. I was intrigued to see that you had a quote that says 10 years ago, when I started Divorce Girls Smiling, I would tell people my goal is to have Mark Cuban as an investor in this company one day. Is he?
He is.
And how
And
did that happen?
it still almost seems surreal. Okay, so I grew up with Mark. Our families grew up together. We lived next door to them, and then they moved when I was really little. But I didn't know Mark because he's a lot older than me. But I knew his brother is a very good friend of mine from high school. And I always just had it in my mind that he was going to be part of this. I don't know why, maybe just because I knew him. And really, he's such a nice, genuine person. And Mark actually really loves my family. He used to work for my dad when he was in high school. And so there's a story behind that. And so I had started reaching out to Mark probably maybe 8 years ago, and he owns this company. I think it was a Shark Tank thing called Dust. It used to be called Cyber Dust, or maybe it is, but if you look it up, it's called Dust.
Mhm.
And it was an app where you could friend people and you could text people, and then your message would disappear in like a minute. So there was no risk of like you could speak freely and say what you wanted. It's a very, very good idea.
Yeah.
And I kind of started talking to Mark through that and made him very aware of Divorce Girl Smiling. I just wanted him to know about it. And I'll never forget this one day, somebody called me and said, like, Mark brought up Divorce Girl Smiling on in an interview. And I was like, what? You're kidding. And my pages blew up that day. It was like very exciting.
Yeah.
So I would say ever since then, I've sort of kept him as somebody I want on the radar to know about me. And then last year, I was, my boyfriend and I watched Shark Tank all the time. And I turned to him and I said, I cannot not be on the show because if one of my competitors gets on it and I don't, I'm going to be so pissed.
Yeah.
So I go, this is the right time for me. So I started pursuing getting an audition with Shark Tank, and I made the video, and the guy I was working with, the producer, was so nice. And he was like, oh, I love your video. And then I didn't get on.
Okay.
And I said to the guy, like, oh, I can't believe it. Because I've spent like almost a month trying to get on the show. And like, you have to answer so many questions in the application that it forces you to take a look at your business. It's a great exercise to do. Everyone should do something like this.
Yeah.
I was answering all these questions. I was making a video. I thought I was in. I didn't get on. And then I emailed Mark and said, I didn't get on Shark Tank, but it was such a wonderful experience. I learned so much about my business. And we started talking through that. And then
Yeah.
that's kind of what led him to say, okay, I'll invest in this. And Mark is a happily married person.
Hmm.
But I think that he also must know so many divorced people. And so he probably has a soft spot in his heart for the people he knows who are divorced. So it was really nice. And it means the world to me that he took a chance like this on me.
Yeah. Did you have to, when you were talking back and forth with him, were you sharing the brand? Were you talking about the vision? What exactly do you think hooked him, so to speak, to say, yeah, this is worth investing in, other than just, the personal relationship that you have?
Well, I actually created a pitch deck.
Okay.
And I had all of the information from Shark Tank, from the Shark Tank process. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm telling you, Sue, I learned so much about my business. It was like going to business school almost.
Wow.
And,
And
you
all of
know,
that's free, right? If you wanted to just go on and just fill
I don't
out.
know. I
It's
really don't know because
okay.
once I got in the door, they sent me the application. So I'm not sure
Got
if
it.
it's online
Okay.
or anything.
Okay.
But I think the thing that got him was I was nagging him for about 8 years. But
Persistent.
also, right, right. But you know what? The advice I would give people is use your network. So I knew that I was special because there's not a lot of people who grew up with Mark and had this opportunity. So I thought to myself, if I have this opportunity, why not use it? And
Mhm.
I find that people who use their network are really smart people because that's the way it's done. I
Right.
always try to help people I know who are starting businesses. I get tons of emails that say, I want to write a book because I've published books before.
Right.
And most people who get those authors, I don't know if they answer them, but I answer every single one because I know that's a big deal to that person that they reached out to me because they thought that I would help them. And so it's all about giving back when you can.
Yeah.
And so for anybody listening, if you know anyone or have any connections with people, use your network. That's the most powerful thing you can do. And that's why LinkedIn is so successful because they realize that concept.
Right. Right. No, definitely. It's networking, and then it's like you said, over time you were able, like you said, with persistence and everything. A couple of things I would assume would make your pitch successful to anyone, whether it was Mark or not, was just there is a definite need that everybody recognizes. Like you said, you may not be divorced, you may be happily married, but we all know plenty of people who are, and we've seen horror stories of, how people have suffered going through this particular process. So immediately you can see a need and have some empathy for it. And then obviously in the way that you were talking, and your personal relationship, your personal brand probably elevated your pitch as well. I mean, it's one of those where he has a relationship and knows how hard you work or how savvy you are or things like that. And that comes through in helping to secure capital and to secure funding. But I talked to a lot of banks and some investors, small, angel investors, and they said, yeah, the biggest issue of why they won't invest in someone is they can't tell their story and they can't show the need.
Mhm.
So
And
if
I'll tell you
just
another
that,
really important one. And I
yes.
think I read an article about Mark Cuban. I can't remember, but I remember reading something about how sometimes he just invests because he can see the passion. And that's everything. I mean, you don't even have to have the skills as much as the passion, and your business will be successful. Like I remember my first job out of college, I was a stockbroker. Okay. I
Okay.
was given the pitch in the late 80s. I was cold calling. And the most successful guy was this guy who like didn't even know anything, barely made sense. But if you heard him pitch someone, he had so much drive and passion and he would yell and he was so excited. He got a ton of business.
Yeah.
And so when people see passion, it's exciting to them and they
Sure.
know the person is going to work because I'm not doing this for the money. Obviously, I like the money. I'm so happy that I'm successful financially, but I'm doing this because this means a lot to me. I went through a divorce and it sucked. And I didn't have these resources and I didn't have people like me writing articles and doing podcasts that help you when you can't sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. And
Mhm.
so I'm doing this all out of a passion. And that I think with passion, the money comes, the investors come.
Exactly. Like you said, building on your passion, it's your why, right? It's why are you building this business and not some other business, right? And so, like you were talking about earlier about, knowing your business model, because if you don't know the business model, you're not in business. Well, I also think too is you have to know your why. And, and I like to say the brand helps you articulate that because it becomes that beacon or that point on the horizon that you're always shooting for. So, no path is linear. It may, you may curve a little bit trying to get to your objectives, but by having that beacon out in the horizon that says, this is what I want to deliver, this is what I want to build, it just makes life so much easier as a business owner because it gives you clarity and focus, and you're not distracted by other, shiny object ideas that keep flying in from the side. So,
Right. You
yeah.
have to have the focus.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect. Well, that's awesome. That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit more about your community because, people talk a lot about with branding, you have to build relationships with people in order for them to be loyal to you and to trust you, to want to work with you. So how does your community do that for Divorce Girls Smiling and for the brand? Do you allow your members, are they allowed to submit content or how does the community work?
So, first of all, we probably should have started with this because I went through a divorce and I experienced all these really good things I did, mistakes I made. I mean, stupid mistakes. I basically am non-judgmental. Like my community, when you read my articles, I
Mhm.
make fun of myself about the mistakes I made. I admit where I have faults and made mistakes. And so, unlike a coach or a therapist, I'm not giving advice. Well, I am giving advice, but I'm not judging anyone. Not that therapists and coach judge, but I'm not judging anybody and I'm giving advice based on I walked the walk. I did it. I went through all these things and they probably read it and think, well, if she can go through that, I can definitely get through mine. Hers was a lot worse or whatever, or hers was the same as mine.
Yeah.
And so I think I built up a trust. And once that trust is built, I'm now kind of an influencer. So if I tell you that divorce mediator Michael Cohen is a great mediator, you're going to trust me. And
Yeah.
that's why I have such the vetting because I really um, feel an obligation to make sure that the community is getting good resources if they trust me. And so
Yeah.
I've kind of built up a trust and become an influencer. As far as people submitting articles, no, but the trusted professionals submit articles.
Okay.
They're the writers, they're giving the professional advice, the financial advice, real estate, mortgages, divorce coaches. They're all giving advice, wonderful advice. And then I edit the articles, and put them on the site.
Okay, perfect. Do you have a Facebook community where
Oh,
members can talk to
yes.
each other or anything?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's another avenue. I have a Facebook group where 3,300 people are on it and they're all talking to each other. And I swear it is the most supportive, warm, loving, non-judgmental culture. Really.
Yeah.
People are so nice on that thing. And these poor women and men who are going through a divorce, and they can go on that page and say, like, hey, they can type in, like, my ex was such a jerk to me. He picked up the kids. I went in the house and just started bawling. And 15 people are going to comment and say, the same thing happened to me. It's going to get better. I promise. And that really is powerful in helping people through a divorce. It really is something.
That's great. Do you have to police that in any way to make sure that, yeah, there aren't a couple of nasty comments that slip through
Yes.
or yeah.
Well, it's mostly like the ones that I have to cut out are people trying to advertise their
Oh,
businesses on there.
yeah.
But really, I have not had a lot of bickering between the people. Not, almost none. I can't even remember the last time I had to remove somebody's comment.
Okay. That's
Hmm.
wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, because that reflects on your brand, right? Is,
Hmm.
if suddenly the communication that's going on in the community is not positive anymore, they're obviously going to blame Divorce Girl Smiling as opposed to whoever the trolls are who are putting
Right.
negative comments
You're
in.
right. And another thing I do is people can send me a private Facebook message and they can post anonymously because they might have someone else in their community could take a picture of the screen, show their name, and send it to their ex-husband and say, look what your soon-to-be ex-wife is posting. So I tell people, please keep that in mind. And if you want something posted anonymously, like you still want advice, I can post it for you. Say it's anonymous and you'll still get all of the comments.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So one last question for you, and this has been awesome. I've loved talking to you about this, but what's next for Divorced Girls Smiling? What do you hope, or is there something that you wish you could offer to your people that you just haven't been able to pull off yet? Or what's the vision of where you want to go?
Sue, I don't know, but I will tell you one thing I really want are I want big brands to be interested in advertising and offering discounts to people going through a divorce. Like,
Oh,
for example, a mover, a furniture store, bedding place. I want people to give back to people who are struggling because when you get divorced, everything becomes twice as much money.
right,
And I think companies have stayed away from me because they don't want that image of, oh, they want that family image, furniture stores. They don't want to be known as the divorcee, promoting divorce, which by the
right,
way, Divorce Girl Smiling does not promote divorce at all. I'm the biggest romantic. I love happy marriages. As long as you're with the right person and you're happy, I'm a huge fan of marriage.
right.
These people have been dealt the divorce card and they deserve a discount. They deserve a break. And I would love to see a big company step up and say, you know what, because you're divorced, mention Divorce Girl Smiling and we're going to give you 30% off or whatever, just to
Yeah,
help people. So that would be one thing I'm looking at. But I just don't know where it's going. It's going so well. I could just do this and I love it. I wake up every morning. I'm so excited to work. I don't know. I'm so blessed and so lucky that I get to spend my life doing this.
wonderful. Oh, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you because, yeah, you hear a lot of people who are very unhappy in their lives professionally and not getting where they want to go. So I love that this is fulfilling for you personally and professionally. So that's
Thanks.
wonderful. Well, good. Well, speaking of one of your resources and all that, yeah, I'm so glad that Karen Covey introduced me to you, who is a divorce coach. She was also a guest on one of my previous podcasts. So that definitely has helped me to meet you. And I'm so excited about that. But thank you for
And can I just
spending.
say,
Yeah,
I just want to say I love Karen. And when I said Michael Cohen, I was like, wait, I should have said Karen Covey because Karen was the one who introduced us. Yes, Karen Covey is a wonderful divorce coach. I've known her for over 10 years
yeah.
and really just a phenomenal person, so smart, so experienced. Would highly recommend her.
Awesome. Thank you. I will make sure she knows that by listening to this episode. So, but yeah, but thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing your branding stories and your insights on building your business. If people want to discover Divorce Girl Smiling, how do they find you?
So easy, divorcedgirlsmiling.com. It will
Okay,
take you to the podcast. You can download the mobile app, sign up for my free consult, find trusted, vetted divorce professionals, and read articles.
wonderful. Very nice. So thank you again for being here, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Turbo Branding Show. You're an important part of our community, and I hope you've been inspired to ignite your growth by leveraging your brand. And if you enjoyed this episode, I need your help to grow and reach more people. So please share and be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. And I would love it if you would share your thoughts and leave a review for us. So thank you, and stay tuned for our next episode.